Hi there. Next up, we have the licensing trends driving toy sales with Maura Reagan and Jeremy Padawer.
Are we on? Okay, good. Yay. Wow. This is really impressive. Boy, oh boy. Well, thank you all for showing up. This is really a pleasure. We're going to have a great discussion. I know we have Q&A, but we can also take questions during as we're sort of just having this conversation. So don't hesitate. Hi, I feel like I should shout out to everybody. Don't hesitate to raise your hand or speak up. You know, this is the toy industry. And if you're not having fun and interacting, well, we don't want to really know you. So do absolutely feel free to jump in with questions. I am delighted and honored to be here with someone I consider really the mayor of the industry as you walk around. But first, Jeremy, on a very serious note, I have to really offer just all of our heartfelt best wishes for you and your family as you navigate the horrible fire that took your home in California. So really, the whole industry is with you on this, and I'm just so sorry. And just the resilience that you've shown always in your career, but on a very personal level, what you've gone through and how you're dealing with it is really inspirational. So thank you.
Let's see. Oh, can you? All right. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, let's see one finger. One finger. Do I see it? Oh, how about a thumb? No. All right. So first of all, I know that this is not a conversation about insurance, but I'm going to tell you right now, get good insurance for your house. It makes the world of difference. All the emotional stuff you can kind of set aside for a moment, take care of all the transactional, and then come back to the emotional later. But at least it lets you focus on the things that matter. So I do want you guys to go home. I posted something on LinkedIn recently about the various things you need to look for in your personal insurance coverages. Just please take a quick look at it. That's all I'm asking you. Because I want one day someone's going to come to me. It'll be the best day of my life when someone says, hey, I had something bad happen, but I had good insurance. And that would be the ultimate moment of my personal career. So I hope it's not one of you. But it might be. You never know. All right. No, PTSD. What can I tell you? I've got it. So we're going with it.
And it's real. But I also think this really sort of leads into the conversation we're having about trends driving the toy industry. But I will also do a shout out for you. Please do follow Jeremy on his Instagram because it is super interesting, super exciting, as well as LinkedIn. So you really, really do need to follow him. But today's conversation is really about the trends driving the toy industry. And again, I can't think of someone better to be speaking with us about than Jeremy here today. So let's just really get started. And as we're here at Toy Fair, just jump in. What is the current toy licensing landscape in your opinion? What are you seeing?
So 25 years ago, when I got started in toys, I was very hopeful that we may have a day like this, where the largest consumer group in the toy industry was the adult collector. That would have made my entire career knowing that was going to one day be the case, okay, or that could possibly be the case. Right now, the toy industry is reflective, and the licensing opportunity is reflective of the fact that the primary consumer, is the adult. 25 years ago, it was preschool, followed by 6 to 11, probably followed by 11 to 15. By the time you got to adults, you were like 4 or 5 sets in. Today, it's number 1. And what that means and what that's done in terms of opportunities is it's really opened it up, very much so. It's also made things a little bit more fragmented because adults have many, many different tastes. But I will say one thing about fragmentation. Fragmentation offers opportunity. So depending on what you're doing, where you are, if you have the adult consumer, the adult collector in mind, I'm telling you, it opens up the world. And we could talk about how to manufacture for those types of mentalities and how that's different. But yes, the adult collector coming into the market has shaped everything. And I would say the second thing that's shaping licensing right now is the fact that it used to be, again, go back a generation or two, and it used to be there were 3 channels for kids, okay? Some of you guys remember that. Most of you don't at this point, but some of you remember. It was 3 channels. It was Saturday morning television, and then cable jumped in, and that seemed complicated. And then you had streaming, and movies became much more important. Today, it is everything from social media, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Everything is an opportunity for potentially reaching an audience from a licensing standpoint. And so those two things combined have really shaped and changed the entire landscape for licensing and the opportunities for licensing.
I remember a couple of years ago, Brian Goldner, who we all love and remember dearly, talked about the idea that, because I come out of the preschool industry, that kids are getting older so much younger, but he pointed out that adults are staying younger so much older, and that really, to your point, really drives such an opportunity for the industry at large to really understand from a consumer perspective what's really happening with the consumer. Which leads me to my next question is, what are you hearing from consumers? Because again, you guys really have your ear to the ground on what's happening at a consumer level, which is driving the great innovation that we're seeing in the toy industry today. But what are you hearing specifically?
Well, I mean, I think again, when you're talking about what you're hearing from consumers, it really is more of an older consumer-focused question, right? Mm-hmm. Because the kids were always voting through their parents' decision making. You know, a kid doesn't necessarily have the freedom of spending money. It was always through the parents. Today, a lot of the purchases, a lot of the consumer intent matches who the intended recipient of that product is. So they get to vote with their own credit cards. Mm-hmm. And what I would say is, it opens up a world of opportunities. So the specific level of interest and the wide variety of opportunities has never been greater as a result. I'll give you an example. Okay, so if you go into our showroom, we recently signed Tokidoki and Mermicorno. Okay, Tokidoki and Mermicorno. Tokidoki is about a 20-year-old brand. It is beautiful. It is a wide variety of characters, and that wasn't necessarily a mass opportunity 15 years ago, but today it is. Because if you go to a Comic-Con and you watch consumer behavior and you see that people are lined up literally around the block and they're spending on average $100 and they're transacting every 20 seconds with a new consumer that goes up there, you multiply that by 24 hours of a Comic-Con and you go, my goodness, what an incredible opportunity to reach a very passionate consumer. Those are only the people in this building that happen to be in this city right now. You multiply that by every city in the United States, and you have a real opportunity. So when we look at things, we look to see how consumers and specifically adults are voting with their pocketbook. We can see that. We can see even if something's niche, it may not just be so specific anymore. You know, niche opportunities now are much more mass oriented, and I think even mass is open for it. So, yeah.
So let's go into the elephant in the living room, which is pricing. Yeah. So, because as we're talking about adults and parents, yes, and they're really driving all of this, where do you think all this is going to be leading in terms of pricing and as we're here at the Toy Fair?
Yeah. Well, so pricing is an issue, okay? Let's be relevant and honest and call it what it is. Right now, there's a lot of challenges to pricing, okay? And some of them are coming from tariffs, and others coming from just the reality of time and inflation in general. There are critical price points. Those critical price points, no one wants to break them. $5, $10, $20. But I don't think that there is a way necessarily out of that. I think that there, to some extent, there's going to have to be an acceptance that if there are certain things implemented, that things will get a little bit more expensive. I'm not speaking on behalf of the organization. I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone. I'm not even advocating for any particular thing right now. But I do believe that whenever you add an additional cost, that ends up being passed on. You try not to. You try everything that you can along the chain. With that said, collectors and the adult consumer, they're not as price sensitive in general. Mm-hmm. When people have a shelf behind them and they want to express themselves through their fandom, I don't believe that if something's $7 versus $6, they're going to say no. And I think that there's going to be a wide understanding, whether you agree with the policy or you disagree with the policy, that the policy has certain impacts. And again, this is not an advocacy. This is not pro. This is not con. Mm-hmm. It just is. Reality. It's just the reality. And by the way, it depends on what happens next, too. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why we're going to be manufacturing on Mars. We announced that yesterday. The CEO of our company said, no, it's too costly to to operate that way. So I guess I was rejected, but
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So when we think about evergreen brands, and as companies, manufacturers are looking at sort of that added value and the opportunity to be, price sensitive but value opportunistic, I think evergreen properties really play into that because there is that heritage. Yes, it'll be a little more pricey, but there is that value proposition. Do you see
Yeah.
evergreen properties even accelerating even more than we've been seeing?
Well, look, when you have a license and when you have something that's ownable, it's not as price sensitive as if something is commoditized, right? So if you're developing against a theme like princesses or robots, that theme alone could have a lot of participants that all want to create robots or princesses. But when there's a branded statement, that protects you a little bit. So I do believe what you're saying is right. Franchises that are known are a little bit more protected, but they've always been because the IP holder is very specific and deliberate about who they're choosing to do business with in whatever category of licensing, right? Because when you own an IP, that IP gets split and divided amongst maybe hundreds of partners across other categories, all of whom are protected just simply because that intellectual property. So I do think that you're right. And I think that when it comes to franchises, when it comes to especially ones that reach an older consumer, I think that pricing is probably less relevant.
Sure. So in fact, evergreens really are here to stay, and we'll probably even see much more of the heritage brands really coming to life through toys.
And I'll give you another thing too. When Toys R Us went away, and I think that a lot of us don't want to say this out loud or admit it, but I'm 51, so I'm just going to say what I think at this point in my life. When Toys R Us went away, it impacted innovation significantly in the toy industry, right? Because I can tell you, look, we're a large toy company today. Top 5 toy company, Jazwares. It's amazing. It's miraculous what's all occurred. But at one point in time, I ran a small toy company. And then we got involved with some big brands and private equity and combined with Jazwares, and it's a great story. 95% of companies in the toy industry are smaller than $20 million. Those are the companies I like to advocate for because that's the future of innovation, right?
Where do they get incubated?
Here's the issue.
Toys R Us
That's
gone.
exactly right. So the two issues are, with Toys R Us gone, it's hard to have a base of operations where you can count on it. It's a toy store that everybody can go to. And the second thing is the higher price points. In order for us to continue to graduate and propel from being a smaller company to a medium-sized company to a larger company, we had to take big risks. It's really one of the only ways to do it, unless you get super lucky. So one year we would do the Girl Scout activity oven. The next year we did Teddy Ruxpin. The next year we did Baby So Real, which was a very high price point Cabbage Patch Kid that had eyes that lit up. The whole point is they all had a home. And when Toys R Us would take it, it would force Target, Walmart, and everybody else to participate. Nothing wrong with that. It's called capitalism. I'm good with it, okay? That was all good. But here's the problem. Without having the toy store, it doesn't motivate everybody else necessarily to participate. So that is a real serious concern and issue. We definitely need home for innovation, and it does help smaller companies. And like I said, 95% of companies in our industry are defined as small companies.
So what is the solution for that, do you think?
I mean,
looking to the crystal ball. I know.
Well, look, there's a few things. Number one, I do think that being in a world today where not just content is fragmented, but there are smaller retailers, especially e-commerce, online, where you can get the message out there, but it tends to go older versus younger. Kids like the experience, and kids like to be marketed to.
Well, and they're toys. You have to play with them,
toys.
feel and touch them. I mean, that's why we're all here.
So I don't know, but I do think there's a white space. I do think there's an opportunity for a retailer to become much more experiential in nature. And the more experiential in nature you get with the more footprint, the more you can go back to supporting, I would say, smaller toy companies, and the more you can go back to supporting higher price points. This is no indictment, by the way, on existing retailers. They're doing a fine job. It's just when one thing drops out of an ecosystem, it changes the entire ecosystem. It's one of the reasons why we have to protect our animals. You don't know how it affects the bigger issue until it's already affected the issue. And I can tell you in the toy industry, there has been a result, probably less innovation, more focus on franchise. And right now, it has been more focused on price point, even though it's going older. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
What do you think about how FAO Schwarz is navigating this? Because I think as a specialty retailer, what we're seeing is real in-store innovation happening there that is exciting and fun for families to come in and experience toys in a way that they don't necessarily have an opportunity outside of that retailer.
I think that FAO Schwarz is great, right? But there's only so many stores.
Yeah.
And so while it may impact New York, and New York may be like a thought leader in terms of establishing the opportunity, it doesn't necessarily reach. I grew up in Mississippi, Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Virginia. Like, I lived all over the South. We would never.
It's not enough. Yeah.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
You need to have that on a more local level.
Yeah. So then, based on that, how can brand owners and toy makers, really bring to market a new and exciting launch using classic characters? Like, how can they break through when? And yes, online is terrific, but again, it's discoverability.
Yeah.
It's like, how do people find you? And I think that's the real challenge. Now, classic brands gets you so far, but you still need that extra push. What do you think? What's the way forward for these folks?
Listen, as an organization where we've over-indexed as an independently owned intellectual property, and that's the way we competed. That's the way we were able to grow. So while a lot, Warner Brothers and Disney and Universal and Paramount and all these amazing large companies those doors are not necessarily open when you're small. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we focused on things like Roblox and Fortnite. We focused on Pokemon and Hello Kitty. All of those brands are independently owned. What I would say to you guys is, if you're looking to compete on any category, on any level, okay, there are a few ways to do it. Either look at B-level categories, which offer retail incremental margin on A-level brands. So find the best brand you can, get a category that's available, and offer the best margin you can to retail. That's a way in. Or alternatively, really due diligence. Really keep your eyes open for what's trending. Because the one thing I can say about the world today is that there's more turnover than ever in terms of relevancy in brands. It doesn't make them evergreen. Mm-hmm. Because things turn over so quickly, it just means you have to be phenomenal at trend. And if you do take that approach, it means you may be able to get the A-level categories, but it means you better be really smart at your inventory management. Like, for instance, if you think you can sell 100, buy 70 to sell. Like, never, ever get caught with too much product on a trend-based brand. Mm-hmm. That, to me, are the two ways. And by the way, that data is always available. Mm-hmm. There's always word-of-mouth data. You can look at Google Trends. You can track what's hot. You can see it on X, or formerly known as Twitter, or whatever the heck you want to call it today. It's all out there to see. It's the opportunism that requires you to get into that kind of business.
So you've got to be really nimble. Good.
Nimble.
I'm getting the sign. We've got a few questions left. What do you think about video game properties?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, video game properties right now, look what's happening. They're going from being brands to franchises. Mm-hmm. Last of Us is a great example. My God, that was one of the best shows of the year last year. I was riveted. That wasn't a show. That was a game. Mm-hmm. I mean, by the way, you can cut and paste. There are other brands. I could name mm-hmm. 5 others. I think that video games is one of the key elements to the future of our industry in terms of development.
And I think it's interesting with video games that it is cutting across the demographic. So it's not, it really is family entertainment. So again, I think it's an area to look at. All right, we've got 1 minute left to go. I've got two questions for you. I'm going to ask you first, what keeps you up at night in the toy industry? And then I'll also ask you what helps you sleep at night in the toy industry.
Okay, what keeps me up at night is just the desire to be relevant. I mean, like, one thing that I learned, and I always thought as an entrepreneur, is that the destination was all about money, and that I was going to maybe one day build a company and sell it, and then I'd do anything I want to. Well, guess what I wanted to do? Make toys. So there you go. So I guess just the objective to be relevant. And what makes me sleep at night, I don't know, probably listening to myself talk. Like, if I listen to this, I'll be asleep in 4 minutes flat. No, I think, I just want the next wave of new companies to be able to be successful. That's what I want more than anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. This is terrific. Thank you. I think we have some opportunity to take questions from the audience. All right. Awesome. Okay.
Great presentation. Thank you. Where do you see AI playing a role in children's properties? And love to get your thoughts. I actually thought that was what kept you up at night.
No. Well, listen, we're just getting to know each other right now, but I think you know me pretty well then. No, that stuff is pretty scary, right? So we've made product before where there is like an interaction between a kid and an item with the concept that it's a smart item, but it wasn't. So basically, there was a plush that we made that when you push the tummy made a signal that would wake up Alexa, but there was no information really transferred at all, and it was all imaginative play. There were years that we were haunted by organizations looking into us for sharing information. And we were like, just open it. Open the toy. Look at the chip. It is as dumb as you can possibly get. This thing is not sharing anything. It doesn't know anything. It is literally a sound chip. I have no idea. I think the consumer watchdogs are going to be super wide open. And by the way, they should be. I'm not saying they shouldn't be. I'm saying that is going to be a major, major player in this whole world of AI reaching to kids. So my personal belief is if I were going to participate in making something that was AI oriented, I would go directly to adults. Directly. I mean, yeah, I want a wise ass Alexa that's telling me something that's funny and kind of sharing information and funny, but I wouldn't do it for kids. I would personally stay mostly away of anything that's smart, intelligent, that is communicating with children and taking the information, shaping what they think. I would stay away from that mostly. I would put it, but their parents, like, I'm up for that right now. I want that right now. I want that right now. So
I'm thinking, I worked on Beavis and Butthead, and so I'm thinking, of course, of Beavis and Butthead and
great.
Just, 15-year-old boy humor. But anyhow, that's great. We had a question over here.
Yes, thank you both. And Jeremy, you said protecting the animals is important. So my question, of course, is about sustainability. And Maura, you probably can talk about that as well too. So how is sustainability affecting the licensing industry? I know you work a lot with product of change. And for me, seeing in Nuremberg, major licenses such as SpongeBob and Barbie now doing sustainability. So what's your thoughts on innovation, sustainability in the licensing?
Well, we all have a commitment to it. And I think that the truth of the matter is that retail has to lead that, okay? Because as good or well-intended as any individual company is, you do what the trade ultimately demands of you. So what I would say to anybody that's leading that fight, direct it towards retail. That's just the truth. Because you can affect the entire universe of potential manufacturers in one great swipe. There has been a lot of positive movement in terms of sustainability. But the truth is, when you buy something, especially a collectible, you don't want it to melt in front of you over the course of a few years. You know what I mean? So maybe there has to be a recognition that certain products are meant forever and certain products are meant to be consumed. And maybe there should be restrictions on what that breakout is out of respect to our environment. And this will be the only thing I say, start hearkening back to California and the fire and all that stuff. But like 800 vertebrate animals are gone since about the 1600s. Maybe those were the animals that were clearing the hillside. Maybe they were clearing the hillside. Indigenous people had systems for hillside clearance. Like, I don't know. Personally, my personal belief is that just take care of the environment around you. I think that that's important. That's not politically motivated. I'm not saying stop doing one thing or the other, but if the animals aren't there to do it, clear the brush yourself. That's all I'm saying. Make sure there's water in the hydrants, Anyways, I'm done with that. Let's keep going. What else you got?
If you have additional questions, if you could join Maura and Jeremy over at the Ask the Experts table. over there, the high tops. They'll be able to continue the Q&A. Thank you very much.
And by the way, I hate for it to end that way.
Oh,
I just want to
okay.
say thank you guys so much. It's such a pleasure for me. Thank you.